Thank you very much. We're going to jump right into our panel discussion. This panel is going to revolve around serving customer needs. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to circle around to that, but we'll get to it, trust me. So what we're going to do here is what I would like our panelists to do is one by one go down the line and talk a little bit about your company and exactly what it is that you do, and then we'll get into the serving customer needs part of it. So we'll start on the end with Chris and just go this way.
Is my microphone working?
You're good.
Can you hear me? All right, so I'm with a company called Carwie and Associates. I've been in the industry for about 30 years now. Started my career at Vulcan Materials. Like most consultants, wear a lot of hats. I was very interested in some of the new products because I'm in the concrete industry. Currently buy a lot of materials, including ready mix, aggregate, fly ash, cement. So I know there's a lot of folks in the room that are involved with those materials. And also do a lot of sales training in the material supply business through the NSSGA.
G'day, I'm Cameron Lee from Firth in New Zealand. So travelled a long way to be here. I've never been on a panel before, let alone in a university, and let alone a university in Texas, so go Longhorns. I've been at Firth for 25 years and started my career as a graduate cadet. So I worked my way through the business and I've been the general manager of Firth for sort of 8 years. We're the largest producer of ready-mix concrete in New Zealand, have a sort of 35% market share position, and operate all around the country. Do about 1.5 million cubic metres of concrete, and activate about 450 trucks, so the biggest in New Zealand. If people ask me what I do, I say I'm a concrete salesman. I think ready-mix is a sales game, it's a logistics game, it's a service game, and being on this panel, I think really kind of enforces the fact that it really is a customer game.
My name is Alan Bessen, and my company is Quarryvision. I've been making big rocks into little rocks for over 40 years. I'm currently focused on measuring and managing performance to generate the highest yield of key products and the least yield of byproducts.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Nolan. I am with Sunrock Industries. We're a 75-year-old vertically integrated materials and contracting firm, principally doing business in the Raleigh-Durham market and also in the East GTA of Toronto. We offer aggregates, ready-mix concrete, hot-mix asphalt, road construction, civil site development, and related utility work. Nice to be here.
So in circling back to our topic, which is serving customer needs, you're each serving unique constituencies. So let's start on the end again with Chris. What does serving customer needs mean to you in your little universe, and how do you accomplish that?
So, as a consultant, it depends on kind of what hat I'm wearing, but if I were wearing my contracting hat, which is in the roller compacted concrete paving business. The main thing about serving customer needs today in the industry we're in is staying on schedule. I mean, that's been the biggest change, I'd say. You can't keep roads shut down any longer. So it's just about making sure that you're staying on the right time, staying in front, and keeping them on schedule.
And what's your recommendation for doing that? How do you grease those skids?
Well, I think that as it ties into this group, it's you have to work together with all your suppliers to make sure that you're getting materials on time. So that's kind of why I brought that topic up. I saw a lot of people talking about their products was about making sure that you're more efficient. And I think the fines and the shutdown costs have gotten so high that we can't afford to have disruptions in supply. So a lot of these technology tools I think are welcome for us to look at for that reason.
So you're seeing those technology tools being put in place in the field, and you're seeing a beneficial result for that?
I think the potential's there. I don't think we're using enough of them. We're certainly using it in ready mix.
Okay, Cameron, how about you?
Yeah, I think for us, and especially at Firth in New Zealand, and probably the whole New Zealand market, understanding your customer needs probably comes back to really understanding your customer. And I think it's something that we say quite often, corporates, you know, got to really understand your customer. But I think one thing in the New Zealand market, and especially at Firth, we try to do is to really, really understand your customer and become really close with them and really connected. And I think you've got to have the people in your business and your organisation that can form those relationships and really get close. And I always say, in our business, it doesn't matter who knows the customer as long as someone does. And you only really know a customer if you're having Christmas dinner at their house. And I think, you know, one thing in that market to set yourself up from the rest, to really have those deep relationships so you can really understand how your customers think, how they're going to react, you know, what segment they're in, how they price, and then ultimately know who their customers are, is pretty important to then understand what they need so that you really, really know them.
You know, we talk a lot about technology tools, but doesn't a lot of that just go back to good old-fashioned face-to-face, meet people, talk to them, and have relationships with them?
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a ticket to the dance in some respects, because you've got to have those deep relationships, you've got to understand them, but you've also got to offer a bit more. And I think, you know, while you have that personal relationship and you have some relationship management, you've got to be good at what you do. And I think a lot of our customers are looking to us to actually, you know, they don't always know what they want and they don't always know what's out there. And they might buy, you know, they might use Uber and they might buy pizzas online and they might use Amazon, but they don't actually know what's really available in the kind of ready-mix space that they can use and what tools can make their business better. And so, you know, it's up to us to go out and find, you know, the vendors and the tools and the technologies and the changing technologies to stay ahead of, you know, our competition so they can stay ahead of their competition. And I think, you know, you've got relationship management as a really important part, but you've got to back that up with some really good IT and some really good systems to make business easier to do with each other. And I think, you know, and ready-mix, you know, it's a sales business, but it's a logistics and trucking service business, and to be able to, you know, make business easier through better IT is obviously fundamental.
Alan, you've been doing this a long time. What insights can you give us about meeting customer needs in terms of what you offer your customers and really what your customers can offer their customers?
Well, we primarily focus on helping them understand what their process is doing and how it varies, and how by reducing certain variables they can improve the yield of those products that they can make money with, as opposed to putting stockpiles on the ground that sit there and, you know, pay taxes on. The measurement systems that we offer them are intended to give them insight into short interval changes in their process. We use 1-minute data intervals and show them that, you know, yesterday they did what they were doing today at 200 tons an hour more than they were last week, and help them understand that now they can target a better way of implementing feed or settings or maintenance on their equipment, so that they can essentially try to get them to a point where they can take a 3,000 hour year schedule down to a 2,400 hour schedule, 600 hours at $2,000 an operating hour, adds value.
Are you finding in the field that it's traditionally been tough to get people to look at their operations from a technology standpoint and to be able to adopt those tools that can help them manage their operations more successfully using technology?
Yeah, absolutely. The technology is just catching up to the industry in a way where it becomes feasible for them to pick up the key elements within their process. Basically, in a quarry operations, you put material into a crusher or a truck, and then into a crusher, and you send it around in circles on conveyor belts and put it on screens, and up to the last 10 years, it's been very difficult to actually get reliable data on those elements. It's now very feasible, and with that data, you can actually see the issues that cause potential for, sometimes, like we just said, 300 hours a year less to produce the same products, and you know that amounts to millions of dollars of additional profit. They're more amenable to that now with the technology, but with the history, we used to have to stop the whole plant and go out with a shovel and take that data. So they didn't think that it was feasible to get, but it is now.
Are you hearing, after customers adopt certain technology tools, are you hearing them say, why the heck didn't I do this before? This is amazing.
That's exactly what they're saying. The ability to see that, for example, in June and July, they were producing their key products at 50% of the in-feed, and then back in April and May, they were doing it at 70% of their in-feed. You know, they run to produce products that they can sell, and they get very excited when they see that they can avoid waste or additional expenses in putting materials on the ground that are not marketable. Yeah, they get real excited. And when they have the ability to actually see it themselves and actually understand what the data variables are, they actually go out and address them. We're running blind like we were for the majority of the time that I've been in the industry. You react. Now they don't have to just react. They can manage.
Well, Michael, let's move down the table to you, and you have an interesting perspective because if you would, I'd like you to address serving your customers, but how you're being served as well. So could you maybe talk us through your experience with how your company has impacted both ways, both directions?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of what we do, you know, behind the curtain and in front of the curtain, right? So within our operations and the customer facing, certainly go hand in hand, right? And you know, when I started in this industry back 20 years ago, there used to be this saying, you know, we can give you price, service, or quality, pick two, right? I haven't heard that in a long time because I think our customers, they want it all, right? And it's not just those three. You know, it's quality, it's that value for dollar, responsiveness. They want us through that service component to make them more efficient, give them access to their data, to their information about the product that's headed their way, and do it in a multi-channel way that is at pace with their desire to adopt technology, right? So we have to kind of be our old selves and a new self on the technology continuum, if you will. So, and to help with that adoption, right? Part of our sale now is to sell tools that we offer that are a complement to the products that we offer. We find that, you know, our customers want them. You know, they once they adopt them, it's a tool that they really can't do without. Relationships are critical, and it's important to be in touch with your customers. But, you know, I think about you know, the tools that are available just for regular consumption. You can order a pizza today, and they'll tell you when the dough is being made, then they'll tell you when it's being put in the oven, and then they'll tell you when it's in the box, they'll tell you when it's in the car. I don't want them to call me to tell me that, but it's nice that it's on the app, right? There's a self-service component to that helps our customers plan and get ahead of issues and not to have to sort through interpretation from somebody maybe on the phone or somebody who's available, not available, so the timing component. So the tools that we want to bring to bear, we've got, you know, back office systems that and tools that we add in at different times. There's when in the quote to cash world, you know, now we've got multiple quoting systems. You have different order taking systems, some legacy, some are newer. So for us, what we need is the ability to integrate these systems more seamlessly, and to be able to then pivot quickly to offering the right amount of information out to our customers in a custom way, in a tailored way that helps them.
And how do you do that? How do you create that seamless transition that you're talking about?
Well, the seamlessness, I think, is probably it has to look seamless from your customer's point of view, and it's a lot less than seamless on the back end in a lot of cases, right?
Gotcha.
Because you have different systems and integrations that you have to create. So, you know, great tools certainly are great, but for us, I think it's also the project support and really being able to design a system well so that it's comprehensive and delivers what we want without those back-end surprises of maybe not having been as comprehensive in your IT planning up front that leads to less than a perfect product for our customers that we're passing through our systems.
That's a good segue into what I was going to ask next. Question for the whole panel. Anybody wants to jump in? what are some of the roadblocks that you're finding out in the marketplace to serving customer needs, and maybe what can be done about it?
I think for us in the ready-mix industry, it's probably following on from the comment down the end, but really there's a lot of systems out there, but the integration isn't great, and there's not a lot of end-to-end systems, and as something new and shiny comes along, we're adopting them, but the integration is not there. And I think if you look at ready-mix, I always think about it as it's a service game, and somebody puts an order, we price it, we quote it, the price goes in the system, we batch it, we send it out, the truck goes out, hopefully the driver doesn't back over the boxing, comes back, and then we do it all again the next day, and all those sort of elements of the process we've covered with some IT, but at the moment, especially in probably an Australasian sense, we're really struggling to find like a one-stop shop for all those interactions and all that IT, and especially one that we can then share with our customers. We might have some internal lenses to it, but actually be able to put it on a portal, put it on a dashboard so your customers can see it is probably not there end to end, and that's probably the frustration. I think the other thing too that the ready-mix industry probably hasn't 100% cracked yet, that we're kind of probably crying out for, is that real true online ordering piece. And there's now lots of, you can now request orders, and there's a lot of that online sort of requesting piece, but the airline industry, the rental car industry, and even obviously the pizza industry have probably cracked that a bit better, and we understand the constraints, why you don't want someone just plonking in a big 300 cubic metre pour at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. But I think that ability to order online and then just reduce the telephone traffic that goes through our call centres is crucial for our customers and ourselves. And I think we make a lot of mistakes just by miskeying and not understanding, just through the multiple phone calls that can go through one transaction. And I think that's where the industry, really needs to probably understand where the benefit is just the end-to-end process improvement for the whole ready-mix journey.
Anyone else on roadblocks?
I would say that it's going to sound simple, but a big roadblock is the training of the people that have been doing it one way for a long time. So, we run ready-mix, we run crews, we route in big jobs, and a lot of people have been doing it their way for 25, 30 years. And so, like, as an example, one of the companies we buy ag from came in with a new system where they'll put cameras in your stockpiles and they'll automatically send you materials, eliminating the need for the guy to call and tell him I need 800 tons, I need 500 tons. But it's amazing how hard it is to get those people to switch to an easier system just because they've been doing it one way for a long time. So training is a big component of what makes it difficult.
Are you finding that maybe the turnover of the industry from kind of going into the next generation, it's becoming easier to get that group of people to learn faster?
Well, I mean, if I'm stereotyping, the younger folks are generally better with technology than the guys.
I don't think you're stereotyping. I think you're right on.
But that can go too far. I mean, what I see a lot is then you take it to the material supply folks, and they don't ever want to have a conversation with anybody anymore, and so they can go too far to where they don't pick up the phone, they don't come see their customer, they don't ask the question of, hey, what's keeping you up at night anymore? They just come in and assume everything's fine because they texted you that morning and said, how's the job going? I mean, so you got to be careful going the other way too, in my opinion. I don't know if Sunrock would agree, but I'm sure you've seen that.
You can't text really bad news.
You can, but it doesn't go well.
It doesn't usually go well. And certainly for the customer-facing or people-facing pieces, there is a bit of an avoidance of having that more meaningful face-to-face interaction or phone-based interaction. But the technology adoption, I think, is excellent. Really, I think across the board, if you can make a technology the user experience intuitive enough that anybody will really adopt it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the CRM. Everybody rolled out CRM, and half the people hate it, and half the people can't get off of it. And there's got to be a balance with that. It's not designed to do your job for you. It's designed to be information to help you do your job better. So many people use it as a crutch, and other people will never go in it. So it just takes time to, I always say on those systems, you got to use the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. And if you can keep it simple, people will use it.
Yeah, and I think, especially for CRMs is a great example. Whatever tool you use, hopefully it's a reflection of your culture inside your company, right? Because if you have a culture of high service, high quality, high responsiveness, high accountability, then you're going to design tools that help you deliver those values. And if your culture is not ready for it, then a lot of systems have a lot of bells and whistles, but really your culture has to embrace and reinforce those tools.
100%.
Alan, anything on difficulties and roadblocks?
Yeah, one of the things is the lack of historical ability to visualize the details in the process. The technology is just getting to the point where people are saying, okay, I can put a belt scale in and I can see the data, as opposed to have to worry about whether it's calibrated or not, or whether it's going to give it anything of any use. The other thing that happens is that most of the people who operate quarries are very busy being busy, not necessarily doing things related to managing their process, dealing with basic oversight of personnel and general explanation of why things didn't happen yesterday. The biggest hope I've seen, and I've only seen this in the last couple of months, but is the ability to facilitate the lack of knowledge and or time by integrating the data system with an artificial intelligence link that is pre-positioned a program to give them feedback. How well are you doing? How well did you do before? And what can you do to make it better? The people I've shown that to have been extremely excited, and the potential there is enormous as far as new people coming into the industry, because properly configured, the AI interface to a belt scale system can give you feedback that a first-year college graduate can actually begin performing at the level of a 20-year veteran, because you just ask the questions, or the AI gives you the questions, and you follow it through, and all of a sudden, you become an expert. And that's real right now.
One more question for the entire group. So in the aggregates industry, and I'm assuming the ready mix industry as well, over the years it was tough to get operations to gather data. Now we've gotten a lot of operations in the habit of gathering data, but the next question is, are we getting them to do anything with it? So what's your experience in that out in the field of actually getting people to do something with the data?
You're asking me?
Anyone can jump in. You can go first.
Yeah, well, it's really good when they have the ability to gain confidence that it means something, and then have the confidence that they can take it on to the next level if something needs to be changed. But in the industry right now, that's very rare. I mean, there's only a few companies that are actually aggressively measuring their processes, and most of them, even Vulcan, when I was invited down by the VP of Engineering a few years ago, he showed me all the major quarries that they had data coming in on, and he looked at me and said, yeah, but we don't know what to do with it.
Wow.
I believe they probably do now, but that's what he said.
How many years ago was that?
5 years ago?
Yeah, that's still relatively recent.
Jim Merritt.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Oh yeah, I'd say the same. I mean, we're certainly suffering from data fatigue, and we've had truck telematics in our business for probably almost 15, 16 years, so we're catching a lot of data from deliveries, obviously through our ERP and our pricing software, mix design, QA stuff. We've got so much data in our business, and we just don't really know how to use it all, and we get so much data fatigue. We're, just emails, the platforms that we have that kick out data we don't even know we have. It's just unbelievable. And I think it goes back to my comment before about having an end-to-end platform where we can just have sort of one dashboard and one sense of the truth is pretty powerful, and something we're searching for, because at the moment, our plant managers, our operations managers have to go searching in different platforms, and you really have to have been around for a while in the business to know where to go and what to look at. And we've got a lot of data, like I said, but I think, for us, it always just comes back to volume, and then we get so sort of caught up in our volume, conversations and how many meters did we do yesterday, how many we got on tomorrow is just the key data point for us in a lot of respects. I think one thing we do have probably is pretty good financial data that we use pretty effectively, which, we've been doing that for 20 years, but, that's obviously the tech of that getting better and more accessible and faster to generate and more interactive, so our plant managers and our area managers and our sales teams can dig into is pretty important. But sure, data fatigue is certainly a thing.
I think we use data, to make incremental changes or maybe major changes to our processes so that we can be more efficient. It's the data synthesis that I think is important in the context of the data. We try to avoid a lot of if-then type of scenarios, especially with a lot of our folks. They're busy, they've got a lot going on, they only know what's in front of them, and we don't want to give them multiple choices. If this, then that, if this, then that, if this, then that, right? And data can get you confused in such a way that you're given a lot of different options in real time that the probability of making the right decision is the more important one, and to narrow the path for our folks as to what the recommended next thing to do with the given data. I think less interpretation, more optionality. So if I look at a dispatch system that says you have this many trucks on tomorrow, your jobs are in these locations, you need these mixes and these quantities, here's an optimized routing for you and dispatch for tomorrow. And here's another choice, and here's another choice, right? And based on these customers and their cancellation rates, you might want to be looking at X, Y, and Z, right? And give scenarios, not just data, right? And then allow folks to use that to collaborate and come up with the best solution, given that data and given the power that can come with churning through and synthesizing lots of historical information, whether it's cancellation rates, whether it's mixed designs, or certainly within the fleet.
Makes a lot of sense. Chris, any final thoughts on that?
I mean, switching hats, I would say, not from our contracting side, but from what I'm doing training and people in the industry, the biggest challenge for the salespeople I see is the disconnect between having too much data and still trying to get out and see their customers, right? And not spend all their time, not quoting every job because the CRM said you had to quote it this way, but making sure they understand the specifics of that particular project. So I think there's a challenge there.
We have to cut this panel a little bit short, but I didn't want to shortchange questions for anyone. Does anyone have a question for any of our panelists? There's one.
This industry has not traditionally put its information online. Therefore, in this dawn of AI, where estimators, everybody out there is sourcing their information through this means, but like you guys discussed, relationships are paramount in this industry, but it's an industry that is reliant on word of mouth. But what does the panel think about, traditionally not having the information out there, and yet in the dawn of AI, that's how information is sourced and shared?
Give an example of what type of information.
Well, you go to the website of the vast majority of producers out there, and there's no information on the products or certainly pricing. But yet when, I've heard it at association events, especially in the last several months, people say, folks from the aggregate industry or the producer industry just saying, Paul, I'm not liking the way AI is putting out inaccurate information or misinformation. And my response is, well, you haven't put your information out there, so it's just going to pull from whatever's available online. So as an industry, we need to control the messaging, or the messaging will be controlled upon us.
Yeah, I think there's a difference, though, if you're a customer, though. If you're a customer of ours, we give you a lot of information. We share a lot of our data with you. We'll give you a lot of information about our products, our services. We'll interpret your specifications, and we'll give you a lot of pricing and a lot of prices. And I think there's probably is a bit of a wall there between your website that's available for the general public. But I think once you're inside the tent and you're a customer, we'll try and give you everything we can.
I guess, I'm referring to out-of-area customers, or certainly next generation that you guys are discussing. What are we as an industry doing for the fact that people under 25 don't do phone calls?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a real good example would be, people don't publish their specific gravities. They don't publish their they don't, companies don't want to publish anything that's going to give them an disadvantage to someone else. So they're pretty guarded on that stuff. And I think that will change. I think that data is becoming more and more available publicly. Just like when the first GPS and the ready mix trucks came out. It's like you didn't want to know, but you wanted to know. I mean, where's my truck? Why is it at the gas station? Should have been here. You couldn't tell the lies anymore. I mean, I always laugh. The ready mix guys say, yeah, I can't lie to my customer anymore. They know where the truck is. So I think that's a big shift in the last 5
That
years.
is a problem.
What?
That is a problem.
I think, a lot of the tools that are probably going to be very meaningful are the ones that use the proprietary information within the company, and you put it through the model, and the model will tell you what your products, what your constituents can be, how they can be optimized. So if you have X thousands of mix designs and you have batching records going back 10 years, then you have a pretty powerful data set that you can run through the right model, hopefully, that will help you optimize your mixes, as one example, right? And I don't see the industry sharing that information soon. I mean, it's nice to benchmark. I think anybody would really be happy to be able to benchmark themselves against the competition, especially maybe if you have a better physical property in your product than others. But I think the tools that we're seeing and the ones that will probably dominate here in the next few years are those that are proprietary models using customer proprietary data sets.
Yeah, and I think on that, I mean, if you think about it, our customers, it's actually their data in a lot of respects, and they probably wouldn't appreciate, our stable of customers having their data, their pricing or, their specs or their tech information actually out there. A lot of it, if you're going to win a bid together, you want to keep it tight. You know what I mean? You don't want the whole world knowing what you're doing with your QA or your pricing or your logistics or what your methodology is. So, as I said before, you keep it in the tent.
The contractor that not knowing the information, having to get on the phone and chase it down has been the issue that we've been hearing it from estimators that they can spend 50 or 60% of their time bird dogging, when they're out of their familiar zone just to get some basic information. Like, we're just talking about basic.
Yeah, sure.
Well, if you're in Raleigh, give us a ring.
Yeah, and if you're in New Zealand, give me a ring.
So I'm going to follow up, and I apologize in advance. It's going to be a little maybe controversial. So obviously we know this industry is built on trust, and especially around technology, because it's been let down a lot, and there's been limitations on availability. And to the point that many of you made, integrations matter. Right, the experience of being able to access it and not have to have a full-time team to train on something all the time, because the management of that tool is something that's not really viable and still doing all the things that you have to do. And so when we speak to folks about adopting new technology, and especially one of my favorite things, and I'm going to unfortunately butcher this a little since I didn't get a screenshot of the slide in time, was old processes plus new technology equal bad new processes, right? And so it's one of those things where making these micro improvements with tools, sometimes you don't see that proof of value as quickly as you could if you leaned fully in with these cross applications and systems. And so I'm always trying to figure out the proper way to not coddle that, not intimidate with what's out there and available and how it can be useful and used, but also speak about it in a way that feels accessible and not intimidating. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts on how you approach that bottleneck or that hesitation.
Well, I think in my career, I've spent some time in IT and IT project management, and we were always told the model was talk about what your needs are first, and talk about what you want your customer experience to be, what you want your internal process efficiencies to be, where your bottlenecks are, get lots and lots of input from stakeholders, and then go to the market and see if there's a software solution or some other solution that meets your needs. And then hopefully you can build an architecture around what's available at that moment. the challenge is 6 months later, something maybe more sophisticated is going to come along, right? And I think, you know, some of the limitations is on industry. Some of us have really old systems that don't have those integration, web services and these other really, you know, easy integrations and APIs and all those. And that just means probably that your back office system, you know, is due for an improvement of some, or an upgrade of some kind. But I think getting around it is really, you know, I mentioned earlier, it has to do with your culture. If you have a culture of innovation and you're preaching innovation and learning and, you know, customer focus and customer service, then you're naturally going to go looking for these tools, and they won't feel as intimidating because they look like opportunities instead of, you know, challenges. But then it's the project piece of the proper specifications, having the right voices in the room, documenting it well. Because if you brought everybody into a room and asked them to design a new software system, they'll probably design the old system. And that's where it's the old process plus new technology equals expensive old process. I wrote it down too. It's a great saying. And so it really, you know, your culture has to be ready for it, and then you have to have a good you know, before you really start the IT side of things, you really need to have a good specification process.
I think one thing on that too is that I think, you know, this industry, while we really keen on innovation, and you get innovation out of trucks and plant, you get innovation out of mixed designs, and you certainly get innovation out of, you know, IT and process improvements, but we are quite conservative. And I think we've seen a lot of companies who have been going along pretty nicely do a lot of damage to their business by chucking the baby out with the bathwater and adopting a new ERP or a total end-to-end solution that's really disrupted their business in a negative way. I think one thing I think about running our business is that, you know, if you're going along nicely, you always want to be ahead of the competition, but don't be so bold that you actually destroy your business by adopting something that can destroy it. And I've seen a lot of examples in the New Zealand market of, not so much in the ready-mix industry, but organisations, you know, completely destroying themselves by massive big ERP upgrades that have cut them off at the knees and almost bankrupted them. So there is that air of conservatism. You've got to be pretty bold, but you don't want to be stupid, I think is the thing.
For things like translation issues. Here in the great state of Texas, the IT is great, you know, data is great, software is great, but it's in one language. And the ultimate endpoint being the customer getting their products, you know, translation issues, and especially in Texas and maybe California, it's great. It's like the game of, remember that when you were a kid and you were an operator, you whisper in one person's ear the instructions, and by the time you get to the other end, it's not what it started out to be. So do you have any suggestions or adjustments for language translation in your customer service?
You mean like actual languages, like Spanish and English, and the yeah, I think having a customer service group that has multilingual capabilities is pretty important, and for your systems, there's an added level of complexity trying to create you know, content in 2 languages. I think visuals are great. A map is great. A truck number and a map is always good, and reading the specs on product quality hopefully is something that somebody can pick up on pretty quickly. But I think certainly multilingual customer service, and if you can, and you have self-service portals, making them multilingual is certainly a good idea.
Hate to cut us off. I know we could ask more questions, but we got to move on to the next section. So please give a hand to all of our panelists. Thank you very much.